This hour of the Costa Report is brought to you by Simply Safe Home Security Systems. Visit simplysafe.com/Costa to save $100 on your system. That's simplysafe.com/Costa.
Welcome to the Costa Report. I'm Rebecca Costa, and thank you for joining me for another 2 hours of straight talk radio. I want to welcome listeners who are joining us on radio affiliates all across the country in all 50 states, and also extend a very special welcome to our men and women in uniform who tune in over the internet. Thank you for your service and also for being with us again. In just a few moments, one of the great news anchors of our time, a man who set the standard for those of us who are committed to reporting the news rather than being part of the news, Mr. Jim Lehrer will be joining us to talk about how the mainstream media is handling coverage of the new administration. Where can the public go to get legitimate, verifiable facts these days? During this hour, we'll talk to a pioneer in news who never shied away from a deep dive into the important issues, Mr. Jim Lehrer. But before Mr. Lehrer joins us, as is my custom each week, let me tell you a little about his background. James Charles Lehrer was born in Wichita, Kansas, and grew up in Beaumont and San Antonio, Texas. He is a graduate of Victoria College and the University of Missouri. His journalism career began when he was hired as a reporter for the Dallas Morning News in 1959. Later, he joined the Dallas Times-Herald, where he covered the assassination of John F. Kennedy and rose to the position of city editor. From here, Lehrer graduated to television news. He became the host of the program The Newsroom on KERA-TV in Dallas and later moved to Washington to join PBS as their public affairs coordinator. But what you may best know Lehrer for was his unique partnership with Robert MacNeil throughout the Watergate hearings and the MacNeil-Lehrer Report, which resulted from that unique collaboration. In 1995, with MacNeil's departure, the program was renamed The NewsHour with Jim Lehrer, and then later the PBS NewsHour. Lehrer stepped down as anchor of the program in 2011, but only after earning several Emmys, the George Foster Peabody Broadcast Award, and just about every award given for journalism excellence. In short, Lehrer set the standard for broadcasters everywhere. And as if that was not enough, while he was anchoring his landmark news program, he somehow found time to moderate more presidential debates than any other journalist and author several best-selling books, including one of my favorites, A Bus of My Own. It's my pleasure to welcome to the program former anchor and executive editor of the PBS NewsHour, Mr. Jim Lehrer. Welcome to the program, Mr. Lehrer.
Well, thank you, Rebecca. It's a pleasure to be back.
Well, thank you for making time for us today. I really appreciate it. As you know, this relationship between the media and the Trump administration has been very contentious. The president has been outspoken about fake news and biased reporting. And as someone who was in the business of reporting the news and who has now stepped away from it, does the president have a legitimate complaint?
Well, I don't know if he's got. There's no such thing as a legitimate or an illegitimate complaint. I say if that at least that label does not fit every complaint. Let's put it that way. In some cases, I think he probably has stepped over the line and gone over to some people's reading of it. The fact of the matter is, the complaining about the press started with the first time they printed anything on a piece of paper and gave it to somebody else to read. It goes with the business. It goes with the territory. President Trump has just escalated the criticism of the press, and in fact, he's used it as a device. He used it as a campaign device. He uses it now as a governing device, which is, when in doubt, blame the press. The press should be used to that by now. It's just a little more extreme than it's been in the past, and press needs to get, if anybody's overly sensitive about this, is overreacting about this, stop it and just get on with the business. Frankly, that's the bottom line. It goes with the territory, and eventually it all sorts itself out. If he steps over the line, what he says is too much, the public will eventually get the real message that it always has in the past, and I think it will this time.
Does he have a legitimate complaint when he says that they're reporting fake news because, just the reporting in general has changed so much from the days of Cronkite and Brinkley and Harry Reasoner, and even yourself. It's become such a source of entertainment. And you've often said the news is not showbiz.
That's right. Well, I don't know. He uses the term fake news, and he uses it for the New York Times. The New York Times is not in the fake news business. He uses it for the Washington Post. The Washington Post is not in the fake news business. And you can go through the list. Somebody else may do things that, quote, are fake news, but not the mainline news media for the most part. And so if he wants to pick out specific news organizations, because there are a lot of them now, you're exactly right. When I started many years ago, there were three commercial networks, and there was your daily newspaper, and that was it.
Yeah.
But now there are hundreds of places to get news and information and reaction to it, and some of them are better than others. Some of them occasionally step over the line. I don't know if they step over the line into fake stuff, but they go into stuff that shouldn't be reported, or it should be better reported, or it should be more solidly reported, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But where in my opinion, where President Trump has stepped over the line when he calls all journalists, the main line, the mainstream, the real pros in the business, and I'm talking about the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, the news side, the wire services, for the most part, the commercial television networks, people like these are folks who are doing serious reporting, and they're not reporting fake news. Does not mean that they don't sometimes make mistakes. Does not mean that sometimes they not sometimes, but they all have, opinion journalists working for them. In other words, carefully labeled columnists, commentators, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But fake news, the way it's being used, is not only unfair, it's totally wrong.
So you feel that it's just an indiscriminate comment, and that while there is some fake news out there, and sometimes it does cross over. An example was the Seth Rich story, right, as the source of the DNC leaks, and that somehow the DNC might be connected with his murder, and somehow that sort of did percolate up to mainstream reporting. Sure, and that does happen. Somebody puts out something and somebody else repeats it and et cetera, and they don't check it out and they're not careful, and there's a huge competition now because there's so many more people working at getting the story or a story. Sometimes people move a little quicker than they should in terms of broadcasting. Do you worry they're cutting corners with fact checking and trying to get the story out too fast?
Well, some of them are, but as I say, the main news media is not doing that. They're simply not doing that, and it doesn't mean they're not. As I say, they're not perfect, but they're not motivated to get somebody. They're not motivated to make up news. They're motivated to report the news, and the public is being sold a bill of goods by people who say, "Oh my God, you can't trust anything you read in this newspaper, that newspaper, this, that, and whatever." The fact of the matter is, you have to take each news organization, each news media organization as an individual and check it out, and see if this is one that you should trust and one you should not trust, and not go with the paint any more than you should paint the brush about all bankers are this, all doctors are that, all preachers are this. That's crazy. And
well, I appreciate that. I feel that some of these comments are a little, the old expression, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. I don't know if people even remember that old expression. But
I know.
I hate to have the whole media painted with one wide brush.
The interesting thing, I do too, but the fact of the matter is, and this is a fact in my opinion, just watching and listening and reading, they're doing a really good job right now, and the criticism has really triggered some really good reporting.
Well, very good. So maybe it's having a reverse effect, and that can only lead to good things. We have to take a short break, but we'll be right back with more from Jim Lehrer. You're listening to the Costa Report. If you're a fan of big ideas and thinking, then you're going to want to sink your teeth into On the Verge. Jim Lehrer, John Scully, Alan Dershowitz, and dozens of business and government leaders from the full political spectrum have given On the Verge their highest reviews. And you can help drive the book to the top of the bestseller list by ordering On the Verge from Amazon right now. Our goal is to distribute 25,000 copies before the official release date. By placing your order for On the Verge right now, you'll help us beat that number. We need every listener to go to Amazon.com and order On the Verge as quickly as you can. And while you're at Amazon, order first edition gift copies of On the Verge for friends and family because they won't last long. On the Verge, on sale now at Amazon.com. That's On the Verge at Amazon.com. I'm here today with Scott Caraccioli of Caraccioli Cellars. Scott, we keep hearing about the wines that are being developed in Monterey County. How would you describe the climate conditions for grapes?
Monterey County has a lot of little pockets that give you the opportunity to grow a variety of grapes. It comes down to the match of location and climate with the varietal that you're going to grow. And where we grow in the Highlands, it's prototypical cool climate. We're even in the northern side of the Highlands. So that is ideal for both Pinot and Chardonnay. Chardonnay strives really well in a lot of our county, as well as Pinot, but I would say that this is the most optimal location. You get wind, you get sun exposure. The benches come off of the inland side of the coastal mountains. It's an optimal position. You can order any of our products directly from us by visiting our website, caracciolicellars.com, or calling the tasting room directly, 831-622-7722.
Every day, I wake up at 5 a.m. to give Dad his medicine. Every day, I wake up at 5 a.m. to give Dad his medicine. At 6 a.m., I make his breakfast. Every day, I wake up at 5 a.m. to give Dad his medicine. At 6 a.m., I make his breakfast. At 7 a.m., I shower. Every day, I wake up at 5 a.m. to give Dad his medicine. At 6 a.m., I make his breakfast. At 7 a.m., I shower. I start laundry at 8. At 10, we go for a walk. Every day, I wake up at 5 a.m.
For those dealing with the daily struggles of caring for a loved one, we hear you. That's why AARP created a community with experts and other caregivers for advice, tips, and support. Together, let's help each other better care for ourselves and the ones we love. Visit aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
I am done with my mattress. That's right. I'm not spending another night on this old bag. My new mattress comes today, and this thing is out of here. Bye-bye, mattress.
Yep. Bye-bye, mattress. So says you and about 1,000 other people every day. And that's a lot of old mattresses with no place to go. There's the landfill, of course, where they just take up space. But what a waste. Because you could send it to a mattress recycler, where old mattresses get broken down into steel, foam, wood, and fiber that become new steel, carpet padding, home insulation, garden mulch, biomass fuel, locomotive oil filters, and all kinds of other great stuff. So bye-bye mattress is right. But don't toss it. Recycle it. It's easy. And it's free. To find a mattress recycler in your area, visit buybuymattress.com.
Welcome back to the Costa Report. I'm Rebecca Costa, and my guest today is the former anchor and executive editor of the PBS NewsHour and best-selling author, Mr. Jim Lehrer. And before the break, you were suggesting that maybe the criticism of the media is having a positive effect because you're seeing some excellent reporting coming out. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely right. And most of the major news organizations have beefed up their reporting staffs, particularly those covering the White House and various issues surrounding the government of the United States. And I think the end result has been some really terrific journalism right now.
Well, let's talk about the beefing up of their reporting staff. What about these White House press briefings? I mean, they seem to have really changed. I find that they almost feel like they're more for show than substance.
I agree with you. I think they are more for show than they are substance, and the show part of it is, show is show is show, and it's had an effect, I think, a negative effect on some of the participants on the journalism side as much as it has on the White House staff side, and I think that everybody needs to take some deep breath and remember what this is all about. Those White House briefings are like all briefings for the press. They're not for the press; they're for the American people to find out what in the world is going on. And in this particular case, what's going on at the White House? It's not there. They're not there for reporters to show how tough they are or how really oh boy, I can really make a great point here. I can score points there. I can boost my career there. Right there on live TV by beating up on the press secretary. And the press secretary has to remember what his or her job is, which is not just a knee-jerk attacking the press or knee-jerk defending the president, him or herself, and himself in this case right now. It's to help the public understand what's going on. And both of these folks on both sides of the set, so to speak, and it's what it is. It's a damn TV set right now. That's about all it is. Both sides of the set need to understand what their purpose is and get back to doing it.
I can't agree with you more. The White House press briefings used to be a great source of information, an opportunity for Q&A, and also to get an update on what was going on in the government. And there's so little content and so much drama in these sessions that there's very little content, very little information taking place. And so I almost feel like not only the American people don't know what's going on, the press doesn't know what's going on. And so it's forcing them to have to dig around and use back channels and also leaks to try to figure things out that ought to be covered in these press briefings. Don't you think?
Oh, I agree with you, Rebecca. And the drama is phony drama. It's a man and woman made drama. It's not real drama. It's not drama of an event. It's not drama about the news. It's a drama about the tension between reporter A and press secretary B, and that's baloney. That's not what it ought to be about.
No, I agree, and I've never seen this kind of a standoff before. I watch every single briefing with the hope that I might get some insights and some news. And I've gotten to the point where I fold my laundry now, or check on the pie that's baking in the oven in the middle of it. There's no content there.
I got you. I'm with you.
Well, Trump has become a master at using social media channels such as Twitter. That was vital to the success of his campaign. And he continues to bypass the media and maintain an almost daily channel of communication, not only with the American people, but everyone in the world. Some analysts have compared that to Roosevelt and Reagan's fireside chats, but this, to me, feels very different. How do you see the president's daily tweets, and how would you have covered that on PBS NewsHour?
Well, you have to go with what there are no more fireside chats. All those things are history now. And
but how I loved them.
Oh, me too. No, I agree with you. But unfortunately, or fortunately, whatever it is, you have to go with what is available now. And so President Trump has, and we decided this long before he was president, but he was going to communicate via tweet. And I thought Twitter. And I thought, my God, this is crazy. But this is the way he's decided to do it. Everybody is now used to it, including the people in the press. This is what he does. And some people think it's an awful thing to do, and he's taken some heat for that. Some people think it's a great thing to do, and they applaud him for it. Complaining about it is a little bit like complaining about the weather. I mean, it's there. He is the next president. The president before. I mean, Barack Obama did not make announcements on Twitter. The next president after Trump may not use Twitter, but this one is. And so to suggest that some have, the news media shouldn't even cover him when he tweets, that's ridiculous. I mean, whatever he has to say and do, whatever technique he has, you go with it. And whatever piece of information, that is all mechanics. it's what he believes and what he says are the important things.
So you're saying the medium doesn't really matter. You still have to cover what the president says.
Absolutely right. And we can sit back. Oh well, I'm not going to cover that because he did it on a Twitter. He did it on a tweet. Oh, but that's ridiculous.
Well, it seems as though the two ideas here that are compatible is he distrusts the media to represent him, so he'd feel more comfortable if he could just represent himself. He seems to be going down that road where I'd rather talk directly to the American people than have people between me and the American people.
Well, that may be true, but and that may be his preference, and that's what that's what he has sought to do. But if you look at what's happened over, of course, it hasn't been very long now. He's only been president for 6 months, and it's not working. I mean, if that was his technique for getting the word out to the public, his approval ratings have gone way down, et cetera, et cetera. In other words, the reporting has gone way up, and there's more reporting about him than there would have been otherwise because of what he has said, whether it's on Twitter or whatever, and what he has done, whether it was on Twitter or whatever. In other words, the people are being informed about Donald Trump, and the people are reacting to Donald Trump. Some people are reacting positively, some people are reacting negatively, but nobody can say, oh my God, I don't know anything about this guy. What do you mean you don't know anything about this? If you don't know anything about this guy, you haven't been paying attention. And there are many ways to find out, many more ways than there ever have been to find out about a president or about somebody in public life. And we're seeing it it's right there in front of us.
Well, it's interesting when you go direct, you give up the opportunity for plausible deniability, which is also for every president since the beginning of the United States has been a great advantage. Sure. So I'm not so sure going direct is the way to go because, if you make a misstatement, you mistype a word or whatever, you really have no one to turn to.
That's true. And he's paying a price. He is paying the price for using Twitter and doing it his way.
Yeah, he is. But on the positive side, there's no question about how the president feels about anything. And, that's the new world that we live in. We have to take another short intermission. When we return, we'll find out what some of the criteria are for unbiased reporting. You're listening to the Costa Report. Thousands of people seeking home security get ripped off every day. That's because the home security industry wants you to believe it's your only option. They've got hordes of salesmen out there trying to scare you into signing a long-term contract, and once you do, you're stuck writing huge checks month after month with no way out. It's robbery by contract, and it can cost you thousands. But there's a better way to protect your home. Simply Safe Home Security. Simply Safe has no contracts, none. You get award-winning 24/7 protection, and they were named best in the industry. Security professionals constantly watch your premises, ready to instantly send the police. What's more, it's just $14.99 per month, less than half of what other companies charge. Protect your home the smart way with Simply Safe. Visit simplysafe.com/Costa. Save on $100. Don't miss out on this offer. This sale ends soon. That's simplysafe.com/Costa.
I'm Paul George of the Indiana Pacers. When I was 6, I had one thing on my mind. When I was 6, my days were spent playing basketball every chance I could. When I was 6, my dream was to make it to the NBA. When I was 6, my mom had a stroke. So I want you to learn the signs of a stroke fast. F-A-S-T. F, face drooping. A, arm weakness. S, speech difficulty. T, time to call 911. Because the sooner they get to the hospital, the sooner they'll get treatment. And that can make a remarkable difference in their recovery. I'm Paul George. Protect the ones you love. Spot a stroke F-A-S-T. Fast. Life is why. Visit strokeassociation.org. Brought to you by the American Stroke Association and the Ad Council.
Women now make up 37% of the workforce, changing their role forever.
Harvard Medical School has now opened its doors to new female applicants.
The first woman is now in space.
The majority of last year's doctorate degrees were earned by women.
We've come so far, but our news is changing for the worse. More women die from heart disease and stroke than men, even though it can be prevented. Make a change at goredforwomen.org today. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the American Heart Association's Go Red for Women.
Okay, what are you wearing right now?
Nothing.
That's right. So Mommy's going to teach you how to dress yourself. Underwear always comes first, name tag at the back, then pants, then shirt. Get the first button in the right hole or you have to start all over. Socks going first, then shoes, right on right, left on left. With shoelaces, just take the ends, cross them over, switch the loops, the rabbit goes down the hole, pull tight, and you're left with bunny ears. Got it? Why are your pants on your head?
Most parenting is hard to do in just 2 minutes. But 2 minutes twice a day making sure they brush their teeth is easier, and it could help save them from a lifetime of tooth pain. Visit 2min2x.org to find out more. A message from the Partnership for Healthy Mouths, Healthy Lives, and the Ad Council.
Yeah, it's me, your heart. Listen to me. We've got to talk. High blood pressure is serious, and yours? Whoa. What happened to us? We used to be so much more active. But lately, you've been ignoring me. I know you think I'm just gonna keep ticking away forever, but you're wrong. You can do so much more to control your high blood pressure. Doing the minimum isn't doing enough. I'm under a lot of pressure and can quit whenever I want. Bet you didn't know that. But I like my job. Just treat me better. Check on me. Give me something green to nibble on every once in a while. And maybe we can do some exercise on occasion. Let's get to it. After all, we're in this together.
Listen to your heart. Don't let it quit on you. High blood pressure can lead to a stroke, heart attack, or death. Get your blood pressure to a healthy range before it's too late. Find out how at heart.org/blood pressure. Check, change, control. A message from the American Heart Association, the American Stroke Association, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to the Costa Report. I'm Rebecca Costa, and if you're just joining us, my guest today is Jim Lehrer. Mr. Lehrer, I've enjoyed your newscasts for many years and long before I started this program. And one of the reasons I respected the coverage of the PBS NewsHour is because I always felt it was up to me to make up my own mind about what was reported. Would you say this is one of the litmus tests of unbiased reporting?
Absolutely right. That is the test, and the purpose of journalism, or at least of straight news journalism, is to lay it out so people can make up their own minds. And if they're the left wing view and the right wing view and the no wing view and the this and that, and put them all in and treat them all fairly, treat them all fully, and let the folks make up their own minds.
And yet, most of the 24-hour news channels that we've got today on television have a clear point of view.
Well, that's true. They have they've gone back to what used to be the European view of journalism. You know, there's newspapers in Europe. You know, there'd be left-wing newspapers and right-wing newspapers, et cetera, not just on the editorial pages, but also in the news coverage. And some of that there's no question that has seeped into particularly cable television news, started with Fox, and which is clearly from the right, and then MSNBC, in order to compete, is now coming at it more from the left. CNN, I think, is trying its best to stay in the straight and narrow. Sometimes it goes one way or another. Some of their folks do, but generally speaking, it does. The three commercial television networks, ABC, NBC, and CBS, they're still in their nightly news programming are still trying, I think, in their news reporting to play by the old rules. Sometimes they step over. The problem is, I think. And here again, it is the competitive world is just so different, and we got to juice it up a little bit, and all those little things that used to not to happen are happening, and that is costing all of us, or everybody who's in the news business or admires the news business or feels beholden to the news business to find out what's going on. Everybody suffers because of that when that happens. And I'm hoping that because we're in this revolution. I'm hoping that this revolution will eventually end, and we'll have a kind of we'll have more we'll have some very strong opinionated news sources, but we'll also still have some really straight and narrow, old-fashioned reporting, maybe new-fashioned in terms of the technology and all that sort of stuff. But it'll be we're going to someplace you can go to. What in the world are they talking about here? How many people really would lose their health insurance? Where do I go to find that out in a straight way that I can believe? And that is the new journalism. It's the old journalism making its return, and I think it's going to happen. It's just we got to get there. We're not there yet.
But there's so many people, when they do surveys about where do people go to get their news and who do they trust, and a great majority of Americans name the Comedy Channel. Jon Stewart, John Oliver. I watch those programs myself. They're very funny, but I don't know that I go to them for my main source of news.
No, well, see, that's the point. That we've got to.
There's something wrong when you go to the Comedy Channel, don't you think?
I agree. But as I say, we're not to the New World Order yet. We're still searching for what the New World Order. Remember, has got to function in a commercial world, and that means it's got to make money. And there are some who are arguing, no, that's the wrong way to go. Maybe we need non-profit news. There needs to be more public television or things like it, like Publico and things like that. Publica, which does serious journalism, etc., in a non-profit organizational way. As I said, we need to find a way to do all of this. So.
But in earlier times, the news wasn't looked at as a money-making proposition. It was looked at as a civic responsibility as part of the democratic process. It wasn't treated like entertainment programming. Now it falls by the same rules.
That's true. But
that's had a huge impact on how the news has gone, I think, because, what the old saying, if it doesn't bleed, it doesn't lead. Everything's being amped up now. Everything's got to have a political agenda. I think it does a tremendous disservice to the media in general, and not to mention informing the public. Where do you go to get your news? You're a professional. For people listening today, what sources do you use?
Well, I have great faith in the good daily newspapers and in most of the network news reporting.
And unfortunately, they're going broke.
I know. So I say we are in the middle of figuring this out. And of working.
Will we figure it out before the newspapers go under? Because I like my newspapers.
I don't know.
Do you have a crystal ball there?
Well, many newspapers are no longer newspapers literally, but they're still in the news business. They're online, and they're having to adjust to the fact that people want news online more than they do on paper. Not everybody, but most newspapers are the ones that have survived are doing pretty well. And there's evidence that people are weary of all the new stuff, and they're returning, and they long for a places to go like newspapers, even though they may be electronic newspapers.
Sure.
And I think the trend is a good one instead of a bad one. The bad stuff you're talking about is certainly there. But those are they are not growing anymore.
Yeah. Well, I would certainly like to see a return to more long format discussions. Like the one we're having today.
Sure.
I think we're done with the easy issues that can be covered in a 4-minute, talking points world. We don't have those kind of problems anymore.
I agree with you 100%.
And I think that the media's timidity in not being willing to do a deep dive and think of the news as an opportunity to inform and educate at the same time, I think that's a missed opportunity in my view.
I agree, and a lot of people are now realizing that. And if you have to look for it, but there's still and there are people doing this kind of work. It's hard to find, and it's harder to find now than ever before because there's so much of the other stuff there. But there's some really good documentary reporting being done.
That's right, but with so much of the other stuff, they're in competition with each other. You would think that, you would do some long format, deeper dives into programs so people don't have to look that hard to find them, and you'd stand out. You'd certainly differentiate yourself,
I agree.
And also, what does this do to the democratic process? All of this histrionics.
Well, I think that the democratic process is elastic enough and big enough to handle all of this and work through it, and that's what we're doing. We're working through it. Things happen so quickly now, and the technology changes, and it's really hard to adjust, and it takes time, and sometimes people get hurt in the process. There's no question about it. But I'm more optimistic about this than you are, I think.
Yeah, you're optimistic we'll get through this cycle faster because things are moving fast. I hope so. I hope there is light on the other side of that tunnel, and that's not a train coming toward us, because I'd like to see more detailed. My dad always said that the media was the fourth branch of government, and I grew up hearing that time and time again. So, that pretty much explains my philosophy. We have to take our break now, but we'll be right back. Stay with us. You're listening to the Costa Report. Listen up, because I want to let you in on a little secret. You don't have to be a psychic to know which business and political experts are going to be on the Costa Report next month. All you have to do is sign up for our free monthly newsletter at RebeccaCosta.com. It takes less than a minute, and when you do, you'll receive our guest schedule along with special announcements and free offers the first of every month. So go to RebeccaCosta.com and sign up today.
Are you struggling with addiction or alcohol problems? If you're depressed, drinking, and using drugs, you may need help. And the Affordable Care Act guarantees coverage of substance abuse.
I knew I could get myself out of this. I just needed some hope and some help.
I took the first step to recovery when I made the call.
Call the Addiction, Hope, and Helpline now for a free assessment with someone who cares. Call 800-962-6969. 800-962-6969.
I feel like I'm losing control. I'm afraid I'll lose my job or even my family.
Call now for hope and help with proven, gentle recovery programs.
I never thought that I could be somebody who didn't drink and use drugs.
I'm in recovery, getting the help I need.
Call the Addiction, Hope, and Helpline now for a free assessment with someone who cares. Call 800-962-6969. 800-962-6969. 800-962-6969.
Yesterday, I got a call from the IRS. They say I owe them over $16,000. I don't have that kind of money.
Don't try to fight the IRS on your own. Use Coast One Financial Group and let them help you get a fresh start. If you owe at least $10,000 in back taxes, call now for a free and confidential tax debt analysis. Call Coast One now for a free consultation at 800-643-4661 now. 800-643-4661. That's 800-643-4661.
It may be hard to believe, but people just like you are already saving money. FeedThePig.org makes it easy. Their simple savings plan teaches you how to start saving without going overboard. So you don't need to mooch off your friends.
You gonna finish that grape?
You mean the one in my mouth? You don't need to stop buying the necessities.
What you're smelling is a natural musk.
Ew.
You don't need to be a medical test subject.
How do you feel? Mostly okay. Sometimes, though.
You don't need to get a second job as a stuntman.
We need a new stuntman. Let's break for lunch.
You just need an internet connection. Don't get left behind. Start your personal savings plan with the tips and tools on feedthepig.org. That way, you don't need to sell your soul to the devil.
$15 is the best I can do.
All right, deal. Brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
Hey, America. We need to have a little talk. I don't know if you've noticed, but we got a lot of food in this country. A lot of peaches, a lot of corn, a lot of apples, a lot of everything. We've got so much food that we can't even eat it all. So if we got all this extra food, how are 17 million kids in America struggling with hunger? I just don't get it. That's why the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks gathers surplus food and gets it to the hungry kids who need it. They can get you food even if you live in Idaho or Alaska or somewhere crazy like that. This isn't complicated. We got extra food and we've got hungry kids. Feeding America's done the math. Now it's your turn. Support Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org. I know you got internet on your phone, so what are you waiting for? We can't do it without your help. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to the Costa Report. I'm Rebecca Costa, and if you're just joining us, my guest today is Jim Lehrer. Let's switch gears for just a moment and talk about another issue the administration's contending with, and that is leaks. Anyone who is in the business of the news knows that leaks are a door that pretty much swings two ways. Sometimes government leaders deliberately use leaks to manipulate media coverage, and then other times these leaks can be damaging to the business of government. Have you ever had a situation where you had a leak and you decided to not go public with it?
I'd have to think about that. There have been leaks that somebody told me something that I realized was interesting, but it wasn't news. Mm-hmm. And I never had a piece of a leak that I thought was legitimate news that I didn't report on or at least work on. I can't think of one at least. It is. You remember. The leaking has become a huge deal and very upsetting to President Trump in particular, because most of the leaks have been about his White House, have been from his White House, from within his White House, and there's all kinds of factioning among the staff. I don't know if that's a word, but among the staff, and they're all talking. They've all been talking to they've talking about each other. To reporters, and all of this has been being reported, and it's infuriating President Trump and some of his people. Maybe this will change under John Kelly, who is the new White House Chief of Staff. We shall see. But
leaks aren't a new thing.
No, it's not a new thing at all.
No.
People have always leaked, and some leakers are whistleblowers. I mean, people who know something that the public should know, and the only way they're going to find out is through a leak. There are some people who have access to grind, and the only reason they leak is to enhance their own situation, either policy-wise or personal-wise, and there are also some government people who intentionally leak because they want to do trial balloons, they want to see how things are doing, whatever, or they want to get their point across in a way where they're not responsible for it. So they're good leaks, they're bad leaks, they're dishonest leaks, they're honest leaks, they're all kinds of leaks. There's no leaking in and of itself is not necessarily a bad thing in every case. In fact, in some cases, it's terrific. That's how we find out. Much of Watergate coverage was done through leaks to the Washington Post and to other reporters. And
that's right.
Much of that we wouldn't have known if it hadn't been for some people who talked. And that is but you can understand also if somebody's leaked something about you that you do not want known. Then you're going to be upset, and whether you're president of the United States or Billy Bob Dunn down the street, it's going to happen, and that's what's happening.
Yeah. Now, I wonder if the fact that there's so little new information coming out of these formal White House press briefings has put even more pressure on the media to go to their sources inside government to find out what's really going on. I mean, if you can't get any information about what's going on, you got to lean on your sources.
Well, exactly right. And let's face it, there's another thing, too, that some of the official, in quote, information that's gotten out that's given has turned out not to be exactly true. And that also hurts the credibility of those who are giving out the information. And I've never seen it quite like this. It's never been this bad before, where you've got most of the solid information about what's going on in the White House is coming from leaks rather than from, as you say, from briefings or from official sources.
Yeah, and I think that one way that some of these leaks might be plugged up is simply getting it together and communicating using formal channels. It's when the formal channels break down, it's not like the press is just going to sit idly on their hands. You know, right. And so I just think that, you know, the breakdown of these formal channels of communication, having press briefings that are full of substance and content, a lot of these things would really help because then they give the press, things to report on other than just the tweets. And so, you know, I wish that they would kind of get that together. But as you point out, leaks are not always a bad thing. I mean, they led to Nixon's demise, and I don't think that we would have had the exposure on Watergate if it weren't for Deep Throat and, of course, the work that the Washington Post did. I don't know that those are the kind of leaks we have today. Some of the leaks just seem kind of downright gossipy.
I agree with you.
I wouldn't mind if it was, you know, of substance like Deep Throat's revelations, but unfortunately, we are just about out of time. But
okay.
Before we say goodbye, let me take this opportunity to thank you for leading by example and for making time to be with us today. We appreciate it.
Rebecca, I've always enjoyed talking to you and always will. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and come back soon.
Now,
before we go to break, you know how much I enjoy giving away free products and services on this program. So if you're struggling to fill a position in your company, you're going to want to listen up, because the longer a job goes unfulfilled, the more your good employees are taxed. They're the ones that have to take up the slack when a job goes unfulfilled. So you want to hire help fast, but not just a warm body. You want someone who can hit the decks running, immediately contribute. And that's where ZipRecruiter can help. With ZipRecruiter.com, you could post your job to 100+ job sites with just one click. Then powerful technology matches the right person to your job. And you can imagine how much time you're going to save by posting a job just one time and then having it appear on 100 job sites. Never mind how much you increase the odds of locating that perfect person for your opening. This is why thousands of businesses, small, medium, large businesses, have all turned to ZipRecruiter. Unlike other job sites, ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them. In fact, over 80% of the jobs posted on ZipRecruiter locate a qualified candidate in just 24 hours. So ZipRecruiter is not only thorough, it's fast. No more juggling emails or calls to your office. Simply screen, rate, and manage candidates all in one place with ZipRecruiter's easy-to-use dashboard. And right now, listeners of the Costa Report can post jobs on ZipRecruiter for free. That's right. It's not going to cost you 1 red cent. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/Rebecca. My first name, REBECCA. That's ZipRecruiter.com/Rebecca. One more time to try it for free. Post your job one time and it'll show up on 100 job sites. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/Rebecca. And if you've got a boss that's having a hard time getting a job filled, be sure and tell them the fastest way to find the best position for that job happens to be free. And all they have to do is go to ZipRecruiter.com/Rebecca. And that is pretty close to all the time that we've got this hour. I'll tell you, it's always a pleasure and an honor to speak to Jim Lehrer. I do miss him so much on the PBS News. And if you were a fan of the PBS News, you know that regardless of how you feel about PBS, that was one of the most in-depth news broadcasts, still is today. But when Jim Lehrer was at the helm of the PBS NewsHour, you always felt that you got the facts straight, that the story was thoroughly vetted. He wasn't afraid to go deeper into the story. And when he was done, you could make up your own mind. You know, if you leaned a little bit to the right or the left, you were able to take the facts and look at them for what they were. And I think that is a great service to the country, and I hope the media will take that as an example. He, Reasoner, Brinkley, Cronkite, boy, they were my favorites, and so it was a great honor to talk to him today. My guest next week is Vice President of one of the 3 biggest credit reporting agencies, Experian. He's going to be here to talk about what individuals, businesses, and even the government can do to stop the runaway problem of identity theft. It is rampant. I know everyone's talking about the opioid epidemic. Well, if you have ever been a victim of identity theft, it is one of the worst things that can happen to you. It takes so long to dig out from someone stealing your identity, stealing your bank account, opening up credit cards. It's just a runaway train, and there are so many stories of people that have been victimized and spent as much as a year or two trying to restore their credit. Don't miss Experian Vice President Michael Bremer next week, right here on the only news program that puts policy ahead of politics. You're listening to the Costa Report.
Hi, it's MZ from KSCO in Santa Cruz, and though I don't care much for people who brag, I'm going to do just a little of it now, and hope you will give me a pass by calling it just being proud. Our station can afford to be innovative and refreshingly different because we use education and logic to promote great health products that change people's lives for the better. We also help people build strong businesses that create residual income through a wonderful low-cost business opportunity that we have developed and refined during the last 20 years. We believe that Rebecca Costa's large audience is comprised of particularly intelligent and educated persons, some of whom may want to earn more money. If you are tired of being someone else's wage slave and are ready to go to work building your own excellent supplement business that can provide you and your family income and become a saleable and willable asset, I want to talk with you. Send an email to mz@wedon'thavetobepoor.com. That's mz@wedon'thavetobepoor.com.
Unexpected reactions to smart financial decisions brought to you by feedthepig.org.
Well, I finally did it. I improved my credit score. You're kidding, right? No. How are we supposed to be the bad boys of electro-synth pop if you're out there being responsible? The band is about to be discovered. This is our year. Yeah, you've been saying that for a while now.
You think anyone in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame was worried about their credit score?
I never really thought that.
Of course they weren't. Rock stars aren't supposed to think about that kind of stuff. We're supposed to think about how many guitars we've smashed, write aggressively sensitive power ballads, start questionable fashion trends, tragically break up and blame creative differences.
All right. I thought maybe it was time to take control of my finances, you know? Start using a budget. Get out of debt. Set some goals.
A budget? Debt? Set some goals? Listen, I knew that we'd have our creative differences, but I was hoping they'd involve a little more scandal.
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind. Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
The Costa Report is now heard in all 50 states on fine radio stations, including this one.